Hi, everybody. Welcome to Book Club Interview with Ulf Sandström. Shh, the crowd goes wild. Feel free to say hello. Hi, everybody. We have so much to talk about today. Ulf Sandström has done so much for the world, for the community, not just the books that we have here, not just the classes, but he is reaching out to so many different places. Most recently, he's done some work in the correctional institution system, and I am just really excited he's here. So if everybody could just give him a big round of applause. Round of applause. If you guys go like this, visual applause. So if you go like this, we know that you're applauding. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spotlight Ulf. I'm going to spotlight myself, and we're going to say hello and do like a proper introduction. And that's the screenshot we'll take for the video. As we're speaking, if you have questions, please raise your hand and join the conversation. Sound good? Okay, good. Thumbs up. Everybody got it? Okie dokie. Here we go. Spotlight on Ulf Sandström. Hello, Ulf.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I was in your time zone just, 2 days ago. So I'm still there. It's 3:30 for me as well.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ulf. I was going to talk about your book, but you just did a major project. And I was wondering if you wanted to talk about that first.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just came back from the US, passing by New York twice without setting foot in the city. We flew, me and Melody, first to Virginia, to the Chesterfield County Jail, where Carrie Rhodes, bless her, our colleague and partner, has been working together with Sheriff Carl Leonard on something called the HARP program. It's been active since 2016, and it's a program which stands for Helping Addicts Recover Progressively. A program which has extreme success and that we have been supporting with the Peaceful Heart Network since 2 years back. We've been doing sessions over Zoom with hypnosis, with havening, with tapping, and with mental training. So we went over to work on location. And after that, we flew down to LA, California, where we worked with another program which is world renowned, which is called the Homeboy Industries Program, which is the world's absolutely largest and most successful gang rehabilitation program. So one program looks from the point of view of helping addicts recover, and the other one looks from the point of view of helping reintegrate former gang members into society. So in both cases, it's a matter of refugees.
Wow. That's giant. Thank you so much. So you do work, when you said refugees, so right away when we think refugees, we think out of this country, we think people displaced from their homes, but I've never heard it, and it hit home so hard with people who are addicts or left out of groups. They are also refugees, and that really hits me.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that was like, it hit me like a realization. I work with clients 3 days a week, so I see them like maybe 2 or 3 times, which means I get to see 400 clients a year, more or less. And, over the years, it's more or less 4,000. So I meet a lot of people, and I just realized that a kid who moves from one home where parents divorce is a refugee. A person who leaves a relationship that's abusive is a refugee. A person trying to leave addiction or criminality is also a refugee. And even just a person moving town or moving job is a refugee. You're always a refugee when you have to reinvent yourself in a new context where you're not sure how, and you're not sure what's safe, and you didn't choose.
Wow. Wow. So you are going into these places and you're giving them several tools that they can use to regulate, self-regulate, reintegrate, and cultivate a neural garden of peace and calm.
Yeah, and that's kind of nailing what the book Unpack Your Existence is about, because me and Frederick Presto, we started meeting in the mornings because we're both early wakers. So we woke up and nobody was awake, so we wandered around until we found out the other one was awake, and we started talking. So we talked for 5 years every morning, every single morning, 5 years. Except the last 2 years, our wives protested and we didn't do it on the weekends. But every morning we would just sit for 1 to 2 hours and discuss what is it that works? What is it that shifts? What is it that makes the shift stay? What are the tools we use? Because basically, I mean, if you're looking to help people, if you have a tool like a hammer or havening or tapping or snake oil or yogurt, whatever it is, you found this works for some and you're trying to apply it and find who it works for. And usually you need more than that tool, and you need to frame it and find out when do I use it and when don't I use it. And we ended up finding that we had 86 techniques, out of which havening is one and tapping is one. But we had 86 techniques that we use, at least 10 or 20 with each client, just like that, overlayered, without even thinking about it. And one of them is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So we use that to model ourselves. And it turned out, we looked, how many perspectives do we approach helping a person from? So they could come from the perspective, I need to quit smoking, or I need to lose weight, or I need to find my higher cause, or, you know, whatever that perspective is. It's just a portal. It's just the door that enables them to change all the other things that brought them to that door, because it's never the door. Smoking is not a problem. You know, cigarettes are not a problem, and fire is not a problem. Neither are lungs. It's what makes you combine them. So what we did was we started looking, and we found 34 perspectives, exactly 34. And those are the chapters of the book. So 34 chapters, and each has like 2 to 5 techniques, amounting to 86. And then we developed this third voice because we're hypnotists, right? And we're both musicians. So musicians, they don't sit and intellectualize, oh, you're taking G sharp. Maybe I should take D minor. You know, that won't work. It's all in the moment. It's like making love or dancing. So what you do is you just throw in another note, and you're doing it in trance like a dance. And so the dance is the combination of the two. Neither one of them can do the dance alone. And we became a third voice, which is Don Tibidou. And Don Tibidou is our third author. And that's the combined voice of both. And so Don became real, you know, like one of your friends, imaginary friends. Don is real. So Don has 192 quotes in this book.
I thought he was real.
I thought so too. I still think he is. I go to the bathroom and I'm like, Don, you have to turn the other way. I'm going to take a, you know, I'm going to take a dump here.
3 of you come to the interview.
And you know, Don is from New Orleans. That's why he has a French last name. But if you look at it phonetically, what we found out is nobody is. And that's part of NLP as well. You're not depressed, you're depressing. You're not fearful, you're fearfuling. You don't have anxiety, you're anxieting, right? Everything is a word, a verb. So this is like Tao Te Chi, the road, you know, of Tao, of Buddhism. So if everything is a verb, it means you can change. It means you don't have a diagnose, you're doing a diagnose.
Right.
And so the first title of the book was Don't Be, Do.
Right.
So the third voice had to be Don Tibidou. Don't be do.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We need to bring in the audience. Okay. I just want to do a big gallery view here. You guys, so quite honestly, have you guys read the whole book? Have you seen, have you listened to it? It's beautiful. What I found was when I was listening to the book is I was just enjoying myself, like listening to how it worked, listening to the workshop, listening to the practices. Have you guys, who in the room has like listened to the audio of this? Have you listened to the audio? Yes. Wasn't it lovely? It was like, anybody do you want to like let me know how you felt about it? Did you read the book? Did you listen? Have you listened to any of the other stuff that Ulf has done musically, or have you listened to any of his workshops? Raise your hands if you had an opportunity. Inga, thank you. Maureen, thank you. Arian, thank you. Eileen, thank you. Steve, thank you. Janine, thank you. Chiggy, thank you. Yeah, we're all here because every time you say or do something, it triggers or it inspires, not triggers, inspires us in some way. So
it's actually both.
It is, right?
We're mammals, right? So what we stress is when something reaches our radar of something is possible. Yes. And the reaction we have, if it is to be inspired, that actually is a trigger triggering us. So yeah, you're right.
I like this. Mark, I want to invite you into the conversation because collaboration is part of your heart.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to collaborate here. So you've seen the work that Ulf's done, and you're doing work. How do we get everybody to join Ulf in what we're doing together? What's the best way to get this all together?
Well, I think Ulf's been doing a great job so far already, zipping to Virginia and Los Angeles. So I'm not sure Ulf needs any advice on how to collaborate. But um, I've been doing some work in prison on and off, not as extensive as Ulf by a long chalk, but it I find it very inspiring that a trainee of mine, a lady who I trained in April, and she's probably about a third of the way through her case studies at the moment. She is working in a prison in Wales in the UK and just doing phenomenal work already. And I put out a post on it last week, I think, with her permission, and she's got all the relevant permissions from the people involved to talk about, I'll give you one example, and this is a little macabre, so you may wish to haven as you listen to this, but this is just one example. So a guy wanted to take his own life, jumping from the top of the internal of a prison, and he landed right next to my trainee's client. Client didn't even see it, but unfortunately heard the sound of somebody landing right next to them. As you might not be, you may not be surprised to learn that this was traumatizing. And event havening primarily, of course. And this lady, Jackie, just changed this guy's life. He was in bits, absolutely in bits. And then there are other stories of, when you're incarcerated, you don't get to see your family very often or at all. You have guilt, you have regrets, you have all sorts of things going on. And this lady's been working with a whole range of different people, some of whom are veterans, and just changing their lives often just within the hour. It's just incredible. And so I'm looking to collaborate with her and get this into more UK prisons and see some open-minded people. And she's a trainee practitioner. She's volunteering in the prison at the moment. She's not getting paid for this. And she's doing this life-changing work. It's absolutely incredible to see. And of course, there are a lot of people around the world I don't know what it is in your country, but in the UK, we're pretty poor at what we call through the gate work. So having people being supported and enabled to get into a life outside of prison that is fruitful, positive, engaging, becoming a useful member of society. And I think there is massive opportunity for all Haveners to get involved in this.
Yeah.
And it's making the right connections. And I personally, I'm very interested in anybody who likes the idea of that and wants to further that. I would love to know and want to know more about what Ulf's been doing. I've seen a little bit of his work and seen some of the videos, which are fantastic. If anybody hasn't seen them, go and look them up because there's incredible work. I don't understand all of it because as Ulf's just described, there's a mixture of different things, and I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah, we're gonna.
But I'd strongly encourage
Yeah,
anybody
absolutely.
else to look into that.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, because that is the thing, because with NLP, what you do is you model a skill of some sort, and you disregard how the person came to this skill. You're not thinking, I need to spend 30 years because they spent 30 years, or I need to learn this or that because they did. You take the surface, the actual structure of what they're doing, and you describe it to someone to see if they, by applying the same structure, can acquire the same skill without actually understanding how it works. And that's what NLP modeling is. And that's what I've been doing all along. And that's what I've been doing with what I call clean communication, which is, for me, like the mother skill of everything. It's how you can actually be safe, efficient, and playful with anybody using havening, tapping, hypnosis, all of it without even knowing what you're doing, but you're sure that you won't be harming. Do no harm at any point. So safety is the number one. And what you're saying also, just to respond to that, Mark, is what you're doing is phenomenal, and we're all phenomenal. So, I'd be happy if I'm thankful if you think highly of what I do, but, don't spend too much time lifting me to the sky. Instead, climb your own ladder, inspired by what I do, and see what that is, because we're all capable and we all have this. And one of the keys, the secret sauce to where I am and where Gunilla and I have, how we have come where we are, having served today, reaching over 300,000 people in 45 countries. And thanks to Rudens, both you, Steve, and Ron, with Havening as an addition, which kind of multiplied our ability to reach people, because now we had 2 techniques instead of 1, which means we can have people do a double bind of Milton Erickson. You can try this one and that one, compare them, which one is best, not this one is great. And so that kind of, opened the doors. And then we got into Disaster Ready, which serves humanitarian aid workers all over the world. 1.3 million humanitarian aid workers now have havening and tapping and these simple techniques as a 30-minute training they all can do for free.
1.3 million? Did you just say 1.3 million?
Yeah. Yeah, 1.3 million. And so, but the secret is this, what you said, Mark. It's not, and she's doing this for free. It's because they're doing it for free. Because when you do something for free, you are no longer bound by the outcome of having to make money in this moment. So we worked 10 years for absolute free. We paid every single thing we did. We paid our trips. We paid our, whatever. We made money and spent money. And after 10 years, all of a sudden there came this tipping point where we could stop paying for it and spend more time just doing it, because donations were rolling in and people were acknowledging our work, and bless them and thank you. But mainly because we could now do more of it. And it takes, to be honest, it kind of takes a few years before you actually know what you're doing. So praise anybody who does it for free, and praise anybody who does what you're doing, helping people.
I like it.
Yeah, I agree with that. The comment about the being paid for it is that because there is so many, or there are so many knock-on benefits, which include financial benefits of the state not having to rehouse people because they're not offending again, they're not causing a drain on society, that this should be funded. And it pays for itself. I think it costs a fortune. I think I might have my numbers wrong here, but it's something like £50,000 UK pounds sterling to have somebody incarcerated for a year.
That's the incarceration cost, but the estimate in most countries in Western Europe and the US, Canada, is one person that you bring out of the criminal system, that you bring out of addiction into a community serving, tax paying citizen, is a saving of more or less between 2 and 5 million pounds.
Wow. Wow.
During a lifetime, of course. And this is not the saving of, incarceration, which is extremely expensive. It's the saving of tax money coming in. People are not in the criminal system. We're not using the laws and the doctors and the lawyers and, the emergency wards for things perpetrated by this person affecting the lives of so many other people. One person, hit on the head in the street and robbed to finance somebody else's self-medication because they can't live without a drug. It's not their choice. They're there. They do it. That's an immense cost, just that one person being hurt. That's like between 20 and 200,000 pounds over a lifetime if they get a handicap from it. But here's the clue. So why doesn't everybody do this? Because, drum roll, because the cost is not being covered by the same place that wants to save it. So saving future tax incomes, nobody sees that. So there's not somebody saying, hey, we could save this by doing that. No, they'll save this if we do that, and nobody will notice until 20 years later, but it's going to be huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I would imagine probably maybe 70% 80% of the crime is committed when people are either addicted to something or looking for the next thing to feed their addiction, whether it be the money or the drug.
And 80% of the people with an addiction are traumatized
Yes.
and self-medicating. I mean, just do the math.
Yeah.
It's like Bessel van der Kolk says, you take trauma out of the DSM-5 and you have a pamphlet.
Yeah.
Chiggy had a question or comment. I'd like to open the floor to Chiggy. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Mark, I was just going to say, I'd love to get your number so that we can chat at the end, because I work for a charity. We go into prisons. And
Fantastic.
we get people, it's a 7-step program. So we start with the mental health and then we end up in employment. And we
Beautiful.
not only do people in prisons, it's also people at risk.
Oh,
Put me in
perfect.
that call as well. I'm happy to share
Yeah.
everything we have.
That
Brilliant.
would be incredible. It's
That's
a
what we
brilliant
do.
charity. But
And you have Aga Kahinde working in the HS in Guy's March prison in London, doing in England, doing a huge project with tapping and havening and other techniques to see if they can find the full circle, you know, which is mental health, safety, recovering yourself, and then being reintegrated into society and actually having a job and not actually falling back.
Okay, that would be really interesting to meet up with him, because Keep Alive used to go into Guy's Marsh, but again, it's finding the funding and things. Getting a program that's a bit more cohesive with lots of people would be incredible.
Great job. I love the connections. The fact that you guys get to connect will actually bring everybody a little bit higher and closer to the final goal. This is where we need to do it. When I send out the video, I'll send out Ulf's contact information, and then you guys should reach out directly to him.
Yeah.
And being a book club, you know, I'll just let you know, Unpack Your Existence is used by the interns in the HARP program in Chesterfield County Jail. They're using the book to find out who they can be. They're unpacking their existence. So what we've done is, the book is for sale on Amazon, but if you're involved in a prison project or a jail project or an addiction recovery project, you can use our PDF cost-free and just use it for free for that program, because it benefits society. And I want to just add thanks to Steve Rudin also for writing a wonderful foreword in that book.
I have to be really honest here. I only saw the email earlier this afternoon, and I've just come off a meeting with a veteran. I also work for a veteran thing, so I'm not even sure what book we're discussing. Can I?
It's Unpack Your Existence.
Unpack Your Existence.
They have all the tools that that people are using currently. I love the way he flicks over to that. These are the steps and the tools he's using. This is like a workbook that you guys can use when you're going into the prisons.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's going on my list right now.
Yeah. I'll send the link for that as well. But you could just Unpack Your Existence, go to Amazon, and get it.
I will have it by tomorrow morning.
So here's Ariana saying, I listened to the chapter 8 and 9 of the book tonight, and I was touched by the words, "You are a process of enoughness in evolution," and the metaphors, the symphony of you. Yeah, the book is loaded with metaphor. We actually had to wrestle an elderly, or at least very mature and extremely professional English editor that had Polish roots, and she lived in Canada. And it's like she really wanted the language to be perfect, and we had to convince her that hypnotic grammar is not normal grammar. So we had to defend every single weirdness in every twist that is there, like you're a process of enoughness in evolution. What does that mean? How can you use those, verbs and adverbs and everything? Well, because it's specifically designed neurologically to bring your brain into something called a trans-derivational search, which is when you're in trance looking across everything to find a new meaning in something that was presented with old parts. And that's the actual definition of creativity.
One more time, please.
The definition of creativity, it's when you do a trans-derivational search. So, if you live in England, they're extremely creative people. How would you otherwise combine, cooking a deer and have mint sauce? I mean, just imagine the traumas that lead up to that conclusion that this is what we need to cook. And then it actually tastes good. That's because they were creative and combined mint sauce and deer in a way that nobody had done before.
Okay, so you need to combine stuff to make a better. So making our lives is a combination of all these little secret recipes and little secret ingredients, and we combine it all together and make the secret sauce that makes us us.
That makes us what we can be. Because what we are right now, we're stuck in our enoughness where we believe this is who I am. And so, you know, I can do this and that. I might do this, but I can't do that.
No.
So unpacking your existence is getting rid of that stuckness and finding out what you actually could do, which is probably not what you thought you couldn't. And to find something new, you have to think in a new way, like Einstein allegedly said. And so you have to think in a way you never did, which requires creativity. Creativity requires playfulness, requires safety, requires trance. Havening is a trance induction.
Wow. That was deep. Okay, audience, who has comments? Who wants to add to that? Who can elaborate and explain what they heard? I'm going to add Stephen Rudin to the conversation. Come on in, Dr. Rudin. Unmute yourself.
Thank you. Unmute myself. I love Ulf. Just a little back history here. The first time I physically met him was in Brooklyn at Doug O'Brien's thing, which was a small little group that he ran every month a billion years ago. And Ulf came in and was kind enough to do a demonstration. And he did this demonstration on havening. I said to myself, shit, he did it better than I could do this. So I took a step back and I said, I have a lot more to learn. And that's a true story. And in regard to what Ulf is saying, where I am at now, where my thinking is at now, is we, as part of the havening process, it appears that at the area of alpha theta, there is both a down-regulatory issue in our systems as well as an increase in the opportunity for creativity. And so when, in my talk in this past June, I told everybody how simply to go into alpha theta. And I'll share that now. And it's really simple. Just put yourself in a comfortable position and just gently breathe and just hear your breath. And that will down-regulate your brain waves to a place that you have more availability to be created, because the other static that's there is not necessarily interfering. What's also interesting is that when you introduce oxytocin by touch, and then this will get a little wiggy here. Oxytocin creates a greater non-harmonic in the brain waves. And what a non-harmonic is that it decreases activity. It increases something called heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the capacity to return from one systole to another systole. And they measure these things in little micro things. So when we combine both the individual going into alpha theta by themselves, or you can induce alpha theta into the person, or you could do it yourself, and then introducing oxytocin, it magnifies the outcome of it. So much of what we do is endogenous to the client, not necessarily exogenous that we do to the client. So just as a thought, where I'm at now. So where I'm at now is thinking about inducing my clients with alpha theta first, best by letting them, and then introducing oxytocin at the time of the session. So that's what I'm thinking about these days.
Yeah, and I would agree that what we're doing is neurobiologically explainable, and that what we're doing is we're lowering arousal. I mean, that's what Stephen Porges would say. That's what Bessel would say. That's what
Oh,
Gabor would say.
hi.
So, lowering arousal means we are preparing the
Hi,
stage
thanks.
for something other to happen, right? And that, in a way, I'll just finish the thought. In a way, when you lower arousal and you add the oxytocin, then that changes how you interact both with yourself and with your environment and whatever you perceive to be in it. So that's like putting a fork in an oven. And once the fork is in the oven, the heat will chemically and physically change the structure of the fork so that you could bend it into a bracelet without using force. And when you take it out and you cool it, it will stay in that shape. And in the same way, once you have the theta going into the into the delta plus the oxytocin, you now have the magic oven of hypnotic state where you actually can change or remodel any thought or behavior. And when it cools down, minutes later, it stays for life, which is so different from any other type of therapy.
Wow.
I think, just as another comment, that this has to be done in.
We're gonna, I'm sorry, Doc. I do want to stick to the book. It's not
That's fine.
we are going to be talking, I mean, it is.
But it does adhere to the book, so it's completely relevant. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. I was just wondering like where it was going to go right now.
I just think that for the other people who are listening, this needs to be done in a aura of safety. So all
Absolutely.
of these things are really great, but there has to be the sense of safety that precedes all of these things. Otherwise, you're activated.
Yep. And same goes for the oven and the fork. You don't use gloves, you'll burn your hands.
Correct. I'm done.
Ariane, is it Ariane or Ariane? Ariane?
It depends.
You say it.
Anything.
Great answer.
I would like to add a yes and to the alpha theta thing.
Mm.
And it's based on my own experience as a sample of someone who had a lot of alpha theta induced 15 years ago when I was struggling with some pretty severe trauma symptoms. And it definitely increased my creativity and it downregulated me in a wonderful way. However, it was at a time when, because of the trauma situation, I didn't really have a good day structure. And my sense is, and that might be an interpretation, that some of my life became more complex because of that. So what I would suggest, like with the things that Dr. Rudin said at the moment, to be mindful what clients you do that with, and also to see, is there anything else that might support them in just living the life they want, so that they don't end up like very creative, which is what I'm I'm very creative, but I suddenly have ADHD symptoms that I never had before. And to be honest, that is not really fun. So I'm working on that. And it might just be a coincidence. I just wanted to boldly throw that in on a recorded call, that we just hold different aspects to the client's experience. Yeah.
I'd like to just react to that too. I agree fully. So the deal that what we say is learn the method, whether the method is CBT or or DBT or Havening or tapping or whatever it is, and then learn all the rest. Because a skill is a competence, a deep competence is not only knowing what the skill is and how to use it, but the deep competence is knowing when not to use it, when it's actually not appropriate. And like you said, I had the one client I remember the most that was early on and that I can think, I really wish I'd handled that differently. So this client helps me every day to remember this, what you're saying. She came and she had severe trauma. She had shut down emotionally. She had shut down social engagement. She was living, in her apartment, barely could go out to see me. and lost faith and hope in humans and trust and attachment and everything. So my first thought was, she said, I wish I could trust people. I wish I could be brave enough to start talking to people again because I miss the social engagement, but I just crumble with fear when I see another person. So we worked on that, and we worked on the traumas, and we worked on the attachment, and we worked on everything, and then we worked on who she'd like to be. How would she like to feel about that? How would she like to, would she like to be curious instead of fearful? Would she like to be, thinking about the other person rather than who she is and how she's perceived? So she comes back 2 sessions later, and it's a complete transformation. The person that was hiding from everything in plain sight, like a dove, like no colors, nothing, was coming and knocking on my door, beautiful shoes, walking proudly, not overly done with me. I mean, just tributing herself, being her best self, also what she gave to the world, like saying, I'm here, I'm proud, I'm taking this space, happy to talk to you. And I thought, wow, done. We achieved what she said. She wanted this. And then 1 session later, she comes back and everything is just completely crumbled because she went into the wrong relationship. She had no skills to know if a person was trustable or not, and she was abused again. So we had to redo the whole procedure, and we came out. But it just made me realize that it's not always about the client saying, I need to get rid of this fear. I need to feel bold. If I just do that, we're fine. Hell no. You need to find out also, what is it that made this go wrong in the first place? And what are the skills that you need to handle that once you're not afraid? Because they have to be there as well. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. That was a very good comment. I like that. When we have a tool like this, so inducing alpha theta is something that we can do simply by stopping, taking some mindful breaths, and engaging in how we're feeling currently.
Like Ariana said, it depends.
Okay.
Right? So if you are living in an abusive relationship and you go see a therapist and you haven't yet realized that you shouldn't be in that relationship, but you're realizing you're not feeling good, you're not knowing why, you're blaming yourself. So you get your anxiety down from a 9 to a 6 or a 5. And the therapist is invested in being a great therapist. So for their sake, you should go down to 0. But that is extremely dangerous because going back with a 0 will make you not understand that you need to leave that relationship because it could be toxic and maybe even dangerous physically. So just understanding that it's not about arousal. It is about arousal, but it's not about getting it to 0. It's about understanding and helping this person because only they understand what is it they actually need to get safely, like Stephen was saying, to get safely with efficacy, not efficiently, because efficiently is cost effective, but with efficacy, which means safely in the most appropriate manner possibly from A to B, where they are to where they would like to be. And in my case, I have wrestled with the fact that I can't help being a little bit mischievous all the time. I'm playful, and it took me reading Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, to understand that the playfulness is not there because I need it to amuse me. It's there because when it's not there, we're not safe and we're not playful. So if you look at our book, Trauma Tapping Technique, people look in it, there's loads of pictures of people smiling. And we're doing trauma therapy to some of the most vulnerable populations of the world. Victims of torture, liberated child soldiers, women victims of gender-based violence, of war. So like multiple rapes, children of rape, can't connect to them, all of this. And in that book, you only find smiling people. Why? Because that is what we're working with. We're working to help people back to the playful state they could be born in. And that's what Unpack does as well. That's why it's 86 techniques and not 1. That's why it's 34 chapters and not 1. If it only was, lower your arousal and be in this state and you're fine, well, then we wouldn't need it, would we?
I think that you can use this book throughout the day, throughout your time. And I think it's almost like one of those books where you can just open up to any chapter and use. Am I correct?
I love that you say that. We had 2 primary goals with the book. Number 1, you should be able to open it anywhere and just read one page or chapter and learn something without having to go through the whole book, because a lot of people don't have that. Number two, we set out from the beginning, having read letters from Seneca, Plato, Socrates, all books that are 2,000 years old and that still hold a meaning today, because we're the same. We're still as good and bad as we were 2,000 years ago, or even 11,000 years ago. So we wanted this book to be possible to open and read any single page 2,000 years from now and not be disturbed by anything that refers to technology or culture that is happening at the moment. So it's completely 2,000 year proofed.
Wow. I do love that. That's like a whole extra level of love to this book. What I feel like people should do is get the book. There is a great audio companion. Can you describe the audio companion a little bit, Ulf?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, it's hypnosis, and we're two, and we're both hypnotists. So we recorded all the chapters with dual voices, which is exciting. It's a kind of deeper hypnosis than just one voice, because you are two halves of the brain and they listen separately at the same time. And so we realized when somebody picks up the book and they go, oh, I can read this, and they read it all in like an evening or a night, that's possible. What you're doing is you're consuming 15 years of experience, 8,000 clients being reviewed into 34 chapters like that. And that's like, eating a 10-course Michelin meal in the same day. You're not going to be hungry for the last courses, and you're not going to digest them. So the easiest way to do that is to listen. So we did audiobook, and audiobook didn't really resolve it either. So we did an app instead, and the app is free. It has all the 86 techniques. It has all the 192 quotes of Don Tibidu, and it has 4 of the chapters. And for $9, you get the other 33, so like 3 cents each. And so you can listen to it, and you can just close your eyes, and you can read it if you want. You can listen if you want. You can do tapping. You can do havening. You can take a hot bath. You can have a glass of wine, whatever, works for you. And it will seep through your subconscious and transformationally search your better self.
I believe that to be true. I I enjoy it, and I don't think I've indulged in the love of it as much as I possibly can. I've tapped into little bits of it, and I've just felt it and become excited. And this is why we're having you here now. I encourage everybody to tap in to Unpack Your Existence, to get the audio. When I send a copy, I'll post a copy of this in the resource library, and I'll also send it out to the newsletter. So we have a copy of this video. You can also send links for them, and I'll put it on.
The app is for Android and iOS. It's an app store. It's free, and it's called Unpack Your Existence, or just UYE. And you just write that in, and you can be listening to it like 2 minutes after this call. And I'll throw in an extra bonus, because I've been working with criminal recovery and addiction recovery, maybe 8 years or 9 years specifically, more than I did in the beginning. And there are some things that are very specific to that, and also to being a refugee. And also, a refugee is escaping a war, finding a new existence. But what we don't understand is that being a military is a refugee from the same war, because you were in a war and you left it. Now you have to reinvent yourself in a place where you're not afraid to be killed, and you're not fighting for a good cause either any longer, because you're in a place where all you're bringing with you are the memories and the possibly traumatic reactions. So in the US, you're losing more people to suicide than in action. You have losing more than 20 people every day to suicide, and that's because it's traumatic to be a military. And police, it's the same thing. You have a 3 times higher risk of suicide than you have of actually being killed in duty. And these are worldwide numbers. So one of the main driving factors that pushes people into relapse or addiction or suicide is shame. It's not like you're angry and going, hey, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to show them all. It's not that. It's like, I have nothing left. There are no alternatives. And hence I will choose this self-destructive behavior now, because I see no other way out. And so we did loads of work with shame, both in Chesterfield and Homeboy. And actually, a lot of people who have served in wars and their friends were killed, they have survivor's guilt, survivor's shame. My buddy was killed, my wingman was killed, or wingwoman, but not me. Why did I survive? So there's all these layers of this, right? Or if you're in addiction, if you're a man, you're going to be committing crimes to be able to afford your addiction. If you are a woman, you most probably are going to be offering services you would never do that breach your integrity to be able to maintain your addiction. Again, shame. And so I did a recording for both programs, which I released today for free. Everything is free. It's a lousy business model, but it's fun. And so I'm giving you, I'm giving you that recording right now, and it's in the chat, and it's called The Art of Shame. So do a little bit of self-havening in your bathtub and listen to The Art of Shame, and you could let go of the most debilitating and, the most debilitating emotion we have. Shame is supposed to be something we experience a microsecond. Then it's filled dysfunction. It tells us, don't do that again. But you also have to ask, what should I do instead?
What should I do instead?
Yep.
I like that. So great to listen to you. I get like these little like, wow, and then I'm like, oh yeah. It's like, is anybody else getting that feeling? Like you said stuff, and you're like, wow, and then you're like, oh, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. Thanks so much. I really do appreciate that. He has a tendency to do that with his music as well. If you've ever listened to a concert, tends to bring you into this state, and all of a sudden you're like, what? Wait, hold on, and then he gives you music to back it up. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I even call when I actually do coaching or therapy or mentoring, call it what you wish. It's insight coaching, right? Because the reason it feels is because you're feeling it from the inside. It's an eureka, it's a aha moment.
Yeah.
And telling somebody, you really shouldn't be walking in the park after dark because it might be dangerous. They're going like, yeah, sure, but not me. I'm immortal, and I'm so cool. And and that would be a teenager, right? And so that's not going to happen. But if you can have them play in their brain, in their mind, something that would give them an insight so that they can feel the reason for this to be true because it works together with their lived experience, then that will change their motivation immediately and they will never go back.
You could tell them it'd be like going to the club with $20 in your pocket. Scary shit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Any comments? And let me take a look here. Hey, Kirsten. Hi, Maureen. Janine.
I think Janina gets brownie points because she's in New Zealand. What is it, like 2:00 in the morning?
Yes, she does. She gets extra brownie points. Thank you so much. Kathy, too.
Hi, it is only I started at 7:30 a.m. so it was really nice. It was a very civilized hour.
Wow. I'm happy we could do this for you.
Yeah, I
You've
am
endured
too.
some pretty early mornings.
Yeah, I've sort of given up on some of your early ones. It was 4 a.m. It was just too much for me.
That's good, yeah.
It's hard, in the United States, if it's like 3:30, it's super early for New Zealander, it's kind of late for the UK. It's okay for the US and it's okay for California, but it's constantly a rotation. And we may need to rotate book club because you guys have been so patient with the fact that I've been doing it at the same time. So perhaps we will make a different alteration. But thank you so much for joining us. Janine, did you get a chance to read the book?
I have got it on my Kindle, but I am going to order the paper copy, and I have got the app.
Oh my God, yes. I like to have it all too. I like to have a physical touch as well as the app. Yeah.
Definitely need the paper copy.
So did you listen to any of it yet?
I've listened to some of it, not a lot. Yeah. I've been listening to some of your ones on Spotify too, Ulf.
Yeah, they're kind of different. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime, and this goes for everybody here. If you listen to it and you have a thought or reflection, a question, just send an email. It's a small world now. It's global. And I like figuring out what makes every single person tick or talk. So I like those questions.
And we like your answers. So I was wondering, we have like a few minutes, and I was wondering if I might ask you to indulge us in like a little, maybe like outgoing trance kind of cool meditative state we can take with us.
Yeah, by nature we'll be ingoing, but I get what you mean.
Okay. You know what I mean. Do you want some music, or you have your own?
It's okay. Yeah, you can. I mean, if you have trancey music, that is just not really going anywhere, or classic, that's fine. A little bit low in the background. But everybody, just sit at the edge of your seat, because if you could lie down, or you could sit at the edge of your seat, but don't sit hunched back, because it pushes your lymph system into a non-working system. And then, you can start by putting your hands together like this and just doing a little bit of hand havening, because hand havening, actually what it does, it's like an emotional safety belt. And I keep telling people it's like you have a little glass pearl between the hands. You shouldn't crush it. You shouldn't drop it. And that's just to have you find what kind of friction is that friction that would help you to find some of that movement that actually keeps those hands talking to your brain. Listens to 80% of everything that comes from your body, and it only speaks to the body with 20% of its capacity, but it uses 20% of your energy. And so where energy goes, your mind flows. Where your mind goes, your energy flows. And knowing that, I also tell people, if you just sense if your hands are warm or cold right now, if they're dry or humid, if they're coarse or soft as a baby's cheek, what you're doing is you're activating the sensors in your hands, the part that actually speaks to your brain. And if you had a QEEG that measured your brain waves, you would now find that you have all the brain waves all the time, which is just a construct from a Persian emperor trying to get his harem women to come on time so that they wouldn't be working night shifts, because that would be expensive. And we don't want that, not even for a Persian emperor. So they made the first water clocks. Yeah. You could ask, how many country musicians does it take to wind up a water clock? And as your mind goes on that transformational search, which depends on your lived experience of country music, what you can do is you can close your eyes and you can let your hands slowly go down until they rest safely on your legs, if you have them. And if you don't, you can borrow somebody else's, or just have them float in midair in the exact same way that bricks don't, which is the absolute beginning of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The spaceships hung in the air in the exact same way that bricks don't. And that's why, if you allow your eyelids to go heavy and your eyes to become unfocused, and if you even would dare to venture into that part of yourself where you can close your eyes, and that's like James Bond, he would have his martini shaken but not stirred, but it doesn't tell if he has eyes. And therefore, the playfulness, as you can tell, is part of the transderivationalness of everything, because we are not, we do. And that's everything. As a human or as a mammal, well, you can choose either, because they're both. We actually think, feel, and do, and that's all it is. I mean, you can write a program, if you have to be God in your next life, and you're thinking, what does she do all day? You'll write, the list says, make humans in image of self. Have them think, feel, and do stuff. That's it. That's the recipe. Add some flour, sugar, and eggs if you can, if you're not a vegan. So just close down and look for something now, because it has been said, and it is in one of the chapters of Unpack Your Existence, that there is a portal that opens up a rift in time-space continuum, which Einstein really was trying hard to figure out, but we're going in. And this is actually called dreaming outing, going Bailey where you have never gone before, into these spaces of your mind. The gap, if it's a subway, but it isn't. And therefore, going deeper and more enjoyful in the way that you can open the portal between you and your soul. And the soul is like this little funny thing. If you like cats, it looks like a cat. If you like dogs, it looks like a dog. You know, if you prefer babies, it looks like a baby. It's all up to you. It's your mind, you know, you're free. But it's like one of those lifting a blanket of a bed going peekaboo. And that's your soul. And the peekaboo thing that it looks through is actually the corners of your mouth. When it smiles, it will actually open up the portal to your soul. And you can have the same smile. You can see it in a picture of you as a baby, and then a picture of you when you're 165 years old, eating the new vitamins of the new science and everything. And, you know, the last 50 years, you know, maybe you started doing something new, a new hobby, or learning how to, you know, dance, river dance, if you don't do that already. Because you have this great ability to evolve into just about anything. And like my daughter would say, she's a wise woman. She would say, Dad, you know, you can do almost anything, but you can't do everything because you have to choose. Like, you can't do river dance and whipped cream at the same time unless you have a cordless cream whipper. And, you know, that's what smart women do. They solve problems. They call them challenges instead. And this is what you can do when you dance with your soul through the portal of your smile from here and forward into what you may call or perceive as your existence, as you beautifully unpack it, whether you do it with or without the accompanying talk of the files that you could download in seconds into whatever computerized little thingy that you have that you don't want to drop in that tub. But you could just also think about it like for weeks, you know, like when you were dating, when you were a teenager, that kind of expectation going, oh, are we going to kiss or aren't we? And if we do, what do I do with the lips? And nobody told you. It's just the smile. That's it. The kiss, it will handle itself. And that's what you can do. Just anticipate whatever it is, the content in that Unpack Your Existence, and allow the anticipation to pave the road all the way like a red carpet into your future as you relax deeply, smiling right now. That's right. Thank you. Feel free to pop out on the other side of whatever that was. And now that you're out on the other side, you can open your eyes and you can look at me and put your hands up in the air like this. And this is inspired by the First Nation of the United States of the America. This is what they did sometimes when they were feeling joyful and playful. You go like this, look into the hands, full of anticipation and curiousness, and then you blow like this. Perfect. Those are the butterflies that will land in your stomach the next time you're feeling anticipation.
Thank you so much. That was just lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Fee, for doing this. Thank everyone for attending. And remember, you know, anybody can get up on a soapbox and preach something, but if nobody's listening, it's just another crazy person. So thanks for making me sing.
Thank you, guys. You feel free to unmute and say goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Fee. And
you.
fantastic.
That was
Thanks,
awesome.
Fee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, good morning, good life. Godspeed.
Okay, bye.